crossed, isn't it? When you press this thing, sometimes it's like, fingers are crossed. We hope we get through this one with no technical difficulties, but here we go. All right, man. Mr. Neethling, welcome back to the podcast, dude. It's a pleasure to see you once again.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. It's cool to be. I'm honored to get back on it. It's been a while. I've been hearing you and Ollie going wild on your millionth lockdown companion.
I know. Mate, thank God that thing's over. I mean, not thank God that the series is over, but yeah, thank God the series is over, because a weekly show it's heavy. It's a lot of work, as you probably know.
Well,
now you're a podcaster.
Now I know. So I have to thank you and not thank you, because it's more work than anyone ever expected, especially if you have a technical difficulty with your recording and you have to sit and edit for hours on end. But I think, like you guys said, you can get rid of the word lockdown, but you guys have got a cool thing going. I think your fan base is growing big time as well. So
yeah, I'm excited for it, dude. I'm excited. We had a bit of an expression session today, Ollie and I, looking at new logos for the new show, coming up with some ideas and stuff like that. But ultimately, the same thing with a different name on it. It's just going to be easier and nicer not to have to say that lockdown word anymore, even though we are technically, I guess, still in lockdown here in the UK.
Oh, it's ridiculous, isn't it?
It doesn't seem to be ending ever. I feel like if we just carried on doing that, it would get to like episode number 100. That's how it feels like at the moment.
Yeah, it forced you to start something cool, and I think a lot of the fans went on a journey with you guys. And but you're lucky to have Ollie as well. I mean, he's lucky to have you. You guys have like a varied skill set, but he's super creative, isn't he? You know, like the ideas in his head. I know he's got that sketch pad, and you're
exactly,
lucky with
man.
that. He's super creative and like a yes man.
He is super creative, and it was funny because I shared the WhatsApp conversation that we had when when the idea first came to my head, and I was like, Ollie, blah 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 blah, do you want to do this thing? And he was like, yeah, can do. And I was like, okay. And then within like 2 hours, we were pretty much recording the first show. So yeah, to say he's a yes man is very accurate. And it's funny, man, like when you really think about that, you know, Ollie and I didn't really know each other going into that at all, really. Like we'd done an episode, no, we'd done 2 episodes together, I think. But other than that, we just kept in touch every few months and, you know, whatever, we, you know, call in various favours and stuff. And yeah, it's been crazy, man. I call Ollie now like he's one of my closest friends because of we chat shit constantly every day, and then sometimes definitely. We record it as well. So it's been cool, man. It's been a hell of a journey, and it's insane to see where it's gone and how many people sort of had, I wouldn't say takeaways from it, but you know, there's definitely an element of it actually helping people get through a very strange and tough time for a lot of people. So
100%. I was going to say, like, we shared some of those messages. I'm obviously new in the podcast and I've been racing, but you know, racing, I guess, inspires kids to race or whatever it is. You know, you don't always get your message across, but what you've been able to do and help those people, like some of those messages, it's like, guys, if you're listening to this that did send a message, keep it coming. Because the more you send the message, the more Dave or me, we do get inspired by that. And it's like there's a lot of fulfillment that you get out of it. You're like, shucks, the guys are listening or they're taking something away, as is some of the podcasts we've obviously listened to, some of the world-renowned ones. You're picking 100%. Up little nuggets here and there, and you're like, okay, cool. That's how they're looking at lockdown. They're starting a podcast or starting a series of a podcast and learning their way through it, you know, and they're just doing things, keeping busy, pushing ahead. Like, you know, there's like 2 types of people that are going to be in lockdown. You know, the guys that just sit back and play victim, and then guys that step up and say, you know what, I'm not waiting for the new normal. I'm not waiting for the old normal. And that's another one. True. Maybe there's 3. Some people hoping it's going to be the old normal, which I almost was like, hey, when we get back to normal, we'll see you in Europe again. I'm in Europe. It ain't normal. Just done 5 days of quarantine in a hotel. I thought they were going to come check on me. They kind of didn't. And that's just part of traveling right now, you know? So, but back to your point and the listeners, like that's so cool. And I know you guys have inspired a lot of people because it is cool. There's a lot of humor.
I was thinking about it the other day.
You know, there's a lot of humor in it. And that, look, dude, life's stressful enough. Then there's lockdown, COVID, and not to be insensitive, there's hardship and people going through shit. So, yeah.
Yeah, totally. I was thinking about it the other day. It's like, I've had listened to hundreds upon hundreds of hours of podcasts throughout my life now, and I don't think I've ever sent a DM to a single podcast host. I genuinely don't think I have. So every time, and it really resonated the other day. I don't think and some of these episodes I've listened to have legitimately changed my life. I've had various takeaways.
Yeah.
Let's just say, for example, something like Wim Hof, the breathing and the cold exposure. That's changed my life for the better. That I discovered him through podcasts. Have I ever messaged Wim Hof saying thank you? No. So the fact that anyone would do that to me or Ollie is just, or yourself or whoever.
So imagine how many. Imagine how many others there are. But I wonder, mountain bikes. It's also the mountain bike scene. Like, it's just this weird family industry. It's pretty cool. But on that point, totally. I also haven't reached out. Maybe because you think they're too famous, so you think this. But I reached out to. It was a podcast series I listened to, and it's on the golf side. But the guy's like former player. Now he broadcasts. He's got this buddy of his, and they're doing these episodes. It made me think of you and Ollie. And I was like, you know what? These guys, I listen to each episode. I get humor, I get value, and I feel part of the scene. Cool. I messaged the guy, but also wrote like, hey, this, and this, and no pressure to get back to me. Like, they probably get a lot of them. Like, I don't. But I think we maybe need to start messaging some of these podcasts. Totally. Even if you don't get a reply.
Totally.
I mean, they're giving
whatever.
all this
I think
value
the fact that
for
you've
free.
done it is enough, isn't it?
Well, I was hoping for a reply as well.
Yeah.
I won't be disillusioned there. Like, I would have loved a reply. They'll be like, I'm like a fan of their show.
Dude, it might come.
Maybe, because I'm like, I reply to all the messages, or try to. Maybe I don't get enough of them.
Yeah.
So that, I don't know, I just make the time for it.
Same. I make the time for it. I try. I know I've got a bunch at the moment sat in the, I just leave them as unread. I don't even open it. And I'm like, as soon as I get a spare hour, 2 hours, I'll sit down and go through them and reply back to people and send video messages back and
that's awesome.
All sorts of stuff.
But but is that a conscious effort to batch it and do it all at once? Otherwise you're going in all the time, and I mean that's a whole other skill set to be able to batch
it can get a lot, can't it? It can get a lot if you've got 50, 60 messages in there, and it's like you just need to carve out an hour, 2 hours just to go through and just some of it's just delete. Some of it is rubbish. It's a lot of pictures and a lot of will you be an ambassador for this brand and whatever. Like various terrible pyramid schemes and stuff. But there is a lot of value in there as well, and it's really nice to hear from people. I think that's one thing that I've always tried to get across myself. It's like I genuinely enjoy hearing from people and getting conversations going, and meeting people for a bike ride or whatever we can do really. So I've been doing that a bunch, but yeah, it can get a lot. Even dude, can you imagine what it's like for bigger shows and bigger people who are like, influencing people?
No,
so
it must
to speak.
be out.
They
have to outsource
insane.
a lot of it. Yeah, no, they don't even look at the direct messages a lot.
Saying that though, Jamie Oliver.
Yeah.
Right.
Funny story. Did he reply to you? Have you texted?
Oh yeah.
I thought you said you don't send messages.
No, but this is different. This is through Saks, through the underwear thing. So we heard a murmur that Jamie Oliver was a bit of a fan of Saks underwear.
Really? Okay.
So yeah, it came through a really reliable source. So I just shot him a really quick DM, like, "Hey, dude, heard
slid
you're a
right
fan."
into his DMs.
Slid straight in there. Can we send you some product? And he came back within like 10 minutes. He's like, "Oh, really great to hear from you. Like, love the product. Here's my number. Here's my address." I was like, "Whoa." Like, people actually do that.
Honestly,
that's crazy. So,
yeah, you never know, right?
Yeah.
Like, but I mean, You've obviously got the synergy that you technically had someone that said, no, he definitely does like it,
Yeah. I did it this morning with a celebrity too. When I say I don't send messages, what I meant, I guess, was I don't really say thank you to people who've produced a podcast that I've had a massive takeaway from.
Yeah, right. I'm going to get straight off this and message Joe Rogan. He better reply. He should be. He's obviously listening to this. Him and The Rock.
Yeah. Can you imagine what those DMs look like? Oh my god. Can you imagine? There's a few videos I saw ages ago on somewhere on social media. I think it was a professional footballer who turned his notifications on his Instagram.
Oh,
and it was just
that's a bad.
just doing, and he's like, I can't even touch my phone. You just have to turn it off, delete the app.
Is the new goal to get a reply to a DM versus like, you know, the question, age-old question, like, who would you love to have dinner with? Is the new
who would you like a DM from?
Who would you like a DM reply from?
Yeah, it's true, man. It's true. I don't know who I'd, you know, personally. I think if Rogan sent one back, you know, that would be.
Bro, he's on my dinner list, isn't he? 100%.
Yeah.
He's a character of note. I'd love to.
The bar's pretty high.
Because you know you're going to have an incredible conversation with that guy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah. For him, it'd be like talking to a chimp, talking to me. But yeah, I know what you mean. You could ask a lot of questions and get a lot of answers.
Hopefully, our podcasting skills play out, and he doesn't see through it, and we'll ask the questions, and he'll rant.
Yeah.
But I mean, you see him sometimes. I was listening to a shroom one. This guy he studies mushrooms and the effects of it and stuff. Stamets.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. That honestly. So far over my head, and I could even see Joe. I was like, there's no ways some of this stuff is sitting with him. But anyway.
Totally. So, how's things going with you? You know, it's been a little while since we've properly spoke. I'd like to know, first up, how's the podcast going? You know, we spoke a little bit about it just then. I guess that it's going well, other than standard technical issues. You know, I think that's what happens when you don't have a studio and a massive budget to fly people in and put them in a hotel for a couple of nights and stuff. But that's the dream, man. That's the dream.
Yeah.
It's coming. I can see it.
Well,
moving the needle, get that private jet fired up soon.
You go. No, cheers for asking. I mean, you're staring at the dildo in front of my face here, the new mic. I went and invested in a mic.
Nice.
Obviously, always want to try do things properly, but I wasn't going to rush into it. So it's been great, man. But like anything in life, you know, you get the honeymoon, the excitement, then the honeymoon stage, then you guys, come on, do it. You could be good, and you need that. And then you need to start. So we've been to that. We spoke about on the last podcast. And then now I'm over a year in, and I'm enjoying it. And the conversations are great. The support's been awesome. And obviously racing has kicked off. So I've been doing the bench racing. I mean, I'm a fan. I was a racer. And I just want to... I just think the guys that are racing, I want to see them like be out there and the stories being told behind them. Because the more people understand the character, the more people see that they're human, I think the better the fan base can grow, right? So that's the podcast. Let's have a conversation for an hour, 2 hours. Let's get to know the rider, what makes him tick, some side stories, and I think I can bring them out. So that's been fun. And then just dropped this, what's today, Tuesday. So I do a race review, and Crank Brothers came on board. They stepped up.
Amazing.
I've done a partnership with them because they are such passionate racers. And I used their pedal for 13 of the 14 years I was out there racing. So I believe in the product. It's race proven. So they said, we love what you're doing, but, you know, can we do these race review things? So that's been cool. So just dropped like a preview, and then got Ed Masters help me break down Leargang. It's a fun look. It's a serious look. It's let's try find some gossip. What's going on in the world of downhill? I'm not at all the races. I might not get to any of them. It depends on this COVID thing. But I've been to most of the tracks. I know the riders. Like, I can't say what the route really looked like that year, but I also know a few things. So it's been fun. It's been a journey, Dave. So onwards and really upwards. Cool. And but the work is set in. Like the 81 had a technical difficulty, and I honestly thought I was getting sick. My eyes were like burning. Had a bit of a headache, but I've been staring at the screen so long. So yeah, mate,
I know that feeling. I know that feeling all too well over the years for sure. And like I said, I don't think there isn't a perfect solution, is there? It's technology, it's time differences, it's time zones, it's internet issues. There's so many factors that goes into it and what's really cool is I think people appreciate that now about podcasts, especially as we've been put into this sort of virtual working space even more, that people are a bit like, look, you know, you're making the best of what you've got sometimes, you know, unless you have like a studio and stuff or something and you can fly guests in, and you know, the reality of that is difficult. I think probably people might not necessarily understand how hard that is to pull off. You know, it's a big undertaking, and I think, you know, we've got a mutual friend now, I guess, in Jace at Gypsy Tales, and I always promote his stuff because that guy went all in, man. I mean, I'm one of those guys that goes all in on projects. You know, I go all in. I don't tickle around the edges. It's like, if I'm doing it, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
But then there's that level of what Jace did, which was invest every single penny he had into building a studio, having no idea if he'd ever even be able to get a guest in there. Like, it's pretty gnarly, man. Like,
so
that's pretty gnarly.
100%. Yeah, we should break that down. I mean, we're obviously doing it kind of on the side. It's not like someone's paying us to go into a studio, do a job, edit it. It's like these guys that are producing the high quality stuff. Joe Rogan, incredible.
Yeah.
But I mean, these guys can outsource everything. It's like someone probably books a guest for him, deals with the logistics. They fly guys in, like you said. Then he comes in, he does his prep, or sometimes he doesn't have to because it's off the cuff or he's got the knowledge. And then he leaves. And someone else edits it, someone else does the assets. Well, that doesn't happen with me and you. We always text him.
No,
like,
it doesn't.
You know, shit, I had a difficulty. Now I'm going to make the assets. Like, I was late getting the assets for the race review. So now I'm going to have to do that tonight, tomorrow morning before the day starts. And that's not a complaint. Yeah. That's a byproduct of choosing to do this. But yeah, the Jace thing's awesome. I like his content, and it's awesome to see him go all in. I mean, he's got the studio in Australia. So guest there is going to be like Australian bias. And then he's got connections, or I don't know how he's doing his American side, but I mean, that's the dream.
Yeah, set up an American studio, which is insane.
Yeah.
Just have people drive there, especially in California, you know, with the moto stuff, everyone's going to be there for the most part, you know. Even if they're not there all the time, they're going to come past California because it's the hub of mountain biking, of moto.
Yeah.
So super smart thing to have done. And I mean, put a producer at that side, you got a producer at the Aussie side, it's the perfect thing. But dude, I don't feel like you or... I mean, I'm pretty much there with that now, with getting someone in to help. I've had a little bit of help over the last couple of episodes, which people might not necessarily notice. But that was just trying to get somebody to get familiar with the platforms like this one that we use to be able to come in and take the assets out. But for me, like, and this isn't a complaint, it's just purely for conversation. But the hardest thing is the episode's easy, right? For the most part, you could sit and have a nice conversation, but once you press end on that call, that's when the work really kicks in, you know. And I guess people don't necessarily see maybe a couple of hours research before organizing guests, which even virtually is still really hard with time zones and scheduling, especially this time of year. People get busier, and then the work starts. It's like creating assets, creating little blog posts, you know. If you're going to submit it to various mountain bike websites, that takes ages. Writing the copy, editing, it's a big undertaking, dude. Like, I've spent almost all day on an episode.
Yeah,
like
you
today.
will 100%. And I think the listeners out there, if you do like any form of motocross, travel stories and stuff, Gypsy Tales is always a good listen. And I like what he's doing with his moto content. He's not claiming to be the expert that's at a race, and he owns that, which is awesome. Like, there's been some riff with some of the like really high-end experts in America. Yeah, and I mean, I listen to it all. I take inspiration from it all. And that's where we came up with the Crank Brothers Race Review. It's like, I used to listen to that stuff. Crank Brothers marketing manager listens to that stuff. I was already doing it, and he's like, let's mesh it together. So we take inspiration from everyone's work. So yeah, if you like motocross and some good travel stories, Gypsy Tales is a good shout, definitely. But to your point, I think it's nice to explain, because I was driving back when I was texting you, hey, I'm a little bit late. We're at this bike park outside Vienna. Super awesome, and we can chat bike parks and what we think of the future of that and riding and racing. But he's like, oh, shame, what time's your work call? Like, are you doing the podcast? I said, don't stress. He's happy to push it back, and I just need us to get on the call. Then my job's done, then I'm going to bed. It's like I'm going on his show, so he's got the work to do, and that's, I can tease you because I always, like, I know the next episode I record, I'm the dickhead that pushes stop, and then you sit there and you pray that the recordings download in the format and the quality you need, so that you can give a decent product to your listener, because you don't want to put out crap. We're trying to put out the best we can do,
Yeah, certainly try. I mean, I have been guilty over the last sort of however many years of letting quality slide sometimes, and a lot of that is just purely down to not having the time to put into it. That is what it is. It's not necessarily anything other than that. Than like, right, it's 12:30 at night. Got to be up at 5. That is literally. It's like,
Yeah,
right,
you've
that'll
got a
just do.
full-time job as well.
Go.
But
Yeah, I have a full-time. I have 3 full-time jobs technically
the
at
best,
the same time.
dude, the best part of this whole thing is you helped me with the editing software. Then I was all excited in lockdown. I did like 7 or 8 hours work, editing, cutting. Brendan was the guest. He had a freaking sniffle, and I like audio adjusted his sniffle out, and I cut all this other bullshit out. And then I did it in the wrong order and didn't do the intro before I did that. Anyway, long story short, I lost the 8 hours. I had to redo it. But then the funniest thing, you're like, oh, I definitely don't even edit them. And I definitely didn't edit them in the beginning when I started my podcast. What are you doing? I'm like, I don't know. When I do something, I do it properly. And that was 8 hours I'm never getting back.
Yeah. And I think going back to what we were just talking about, we can blame Jace and certain other podcasts for that because they stepped the game up too far. I think everyone was pretty happy with my stuff for a bit. It was like, hey, it's cool, he's making the best out of what he's got with Skype and a shitty microphone.
Yeah.
And then this stuff comes in and it's like, okay, all right, maybe we need to raise the level just a little bit higher.
Yeah, well,
than just being like, oh, that'll do. People will be okay with it.
Yeah, totally. And everything's free as well. And I mean,
yeah.
I love when you get complaints like you're giving out free content and then you got keyboard warriors.
Oh man, yeah, don't get me started on that. I had to delete a few comments off YouTube today. People getting a bit nasty out there. Maybe a bit of cabin fever or something wherever they are. But yeah,
really,
not good.
I don't get that. I give guys a chance like directly. Like if I had a bad experience at a restaurant and I'm just the guy. I'm like, you can go and give them a bad review, or you can see if they'll learn from it and how they respond. Like the shocking service. So I took my mom. I think it was Mother's Day. I think me and the missus took my mom out for breakfast. And it was so comical. I'm always the guy like, can we please not complain? Like, let's just get out of here, whatever. I literally was losing it. Anyway, but I sent them a direct email. I found their email. And I was like, here's the feedback. Use it, don't use it. Let's see how you respond. I'm not always perfect. Sometimes, I want to go out there and lash them online. I guess if I miss a flight and they treat me badly, I'm going to use my Twitter account to try get a free voucher. I don't know. I guess that's what people want to do. But it kind of sucks when they just like really bash you online.
Yeah, totally. And just YouTube comments and stuff. I mean, YouTube's kind of ruthless in it. People say some horrible things on that, and sometimes it's a really bad start to the day when you look at all these YouTube comments. It says it says 9+, and you go, oh, what are they? And it's just some guys just like giving you a load of shit, and you're like, just don't listen. Like, seriously, it doesn't matter. Like, please, rather than write that shitty comment, like, just don't listen. It's way better for everyone concerned.
Worse than some of the pink bike comments. Probably are. Right?
Oh, dude.
Really?
I don't know. I've had some bad pink bike comments over the years.
Yeah, but pink bike guys are often like, pretty switched on, in the scene and stuff. A lot of them are like the tech, and so they'll chew you apart for some valid reasons. But yeah. Keyboard warriors are funny, man.
Yeah, it's not cool. But hey, whatever. I guess if there's a little element of something in there you can learn from, then fair enough. If someone's like, look, I've listened to your podcast, and here's what I think, maybe you could improve this a little bit, it's like, oh, cool. But just to go, who's this fucking idiot, is like, it doesn't help anybody, right?
It clearly makes him feel better about his life, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Just
I saw some comments
covered in Cheetos or something.
Yeah, I saw some feedback comments. The guy was like, no, don't take it personally, I'm just the feedback. It's like, I saw that about some podcasts and stuff out there, which was fair enough. Yeah. Fair enough. Everyone's trying, so he gave him a chance. So,
Mate, we're all trying. And especially when it's with something that, like we were just saying again, like that takes quite a lot of work. You want to just be like, look, well, where's your show? Like, show me what you're doing, and let's have a conversation here. But to just say something's, shitty or it's bad quality or this and that, and you're just like, well, okay, but where's your stuff? Like, okay, do something better. It's free to do, almost. It's going to cost you a few quid. You get a few friends drafted in, slide into enough DMs, you'll be able to find a guest. It's not that difficult. It really isn't. So show me your stuff. Let's have a conversation.
That would be pretty fun, yeah.
Yeah, but it's good. I think going back to again, like talking about the podcast stuff, it's so cool to see so many amazing new shows pop up. Our little podcast brotherhood seems to be growing quite a lot.
Definitely.
I got Tippy to put in there now as well. I got Tippy's number just earlier.
Is he on the WhatsApp group, Tippy?
He will be. Yeah, I got to just put him in there.
Wicked.
So it's so many people starting podcast. It's really sick, and hopefully it benefits everyone.
No, it definitely is growing, and I think it's growing in the mountain bike scene. There are lots of podcasts, and it's really cool. And honoured to be involved with it. I think there's been some like yours. Some others have been going for a long time. They're putting a lot of effort in it. It's cool.
Yeah.
And it's definitely an interesting time. And speaking to some sponsors that are curious about it and asking about what you're doing and all that, because I think a lot of them do listen to podcasts in the spare time, be it marketing, business. It depends how much mountain bike content you want. But no, there's definitely a place for it, and it's fun and. Trying to learn, trying to see what everyone wants, but at the same time, you can't please everyone. So I'm going to get some haters, and I'm going to get some people that love it. I'd rather have people that really love it, even if it's smaller than like a few people lots of people that kind of like it. It's like, hey,
totally.
This is what I used to do. This is the journey I'm on now. Come with me. We're going to do some racing. We're going to talk to some athletes. I'm going to branch out. I want to get some. I have reached out to another athlete that launched a podcast post-career and kind of like finding himself. So there's that synergy. He'd like to come on mine. So that's going to be pretty cool. I reached out to Nathan Rennie, and I don't know if you know anything about Nathan Rennie. But
you know what? I don't know much about Nathan Rennie other than he every day sends me a link to sign up to his to like his Facebook page.
Does he? He's mad on Facebook.
Is it landscaping?
No, but he's starting some coaching and stuff. But
okay.
So this is unfortunately you're going to have to consume this episode when it comes out, because Nathan Rennie is the most authentic person I've ever met. Excuse me. You're going to edit that out or not?
Definitely not.
Probably not.
Just don't cough anymore.
I'm like, how can I make this day worse? I wouldn't want to do that. So I'm excited because he basically mentored me whether he likes it or not. And did we go for 2 hours? This podcast could have been 10. I mean, we could do hundreds. He's threatening to write a book from all the stories he got up to, the mischief. He got up to some shit. We got up to some shit. And we raced bikes. We raced them hard. And he won the 2003 World Cup title. I mean, this is the guy that was just in the gate. Fabian Barrel's in front of him. Apparently Fabian took his peak off at the time after they'd signed petitions. And he was like, this guy ain't beating me today, especially if he takes his peak off. And he went out and he won this race. But the stuff we did in between riding, we're just lads on tour, I guess, having a great time. It's before everyone was in the gym every day and scientific training programs. So,
and before social media too.
Yeah. Thank goodness for some of it. Yeah, he probably would have got fired earlier than he wished with some of social media. But that's back to how's it going? Well, that really is cool because I've reconnected with him. I didn't really have a reason to reconnect. I try, you try, but you don't get to sit for 2 hours and have a conversation. If he lives in Australia, it's not going to happen. So and
I think it sets the tone for that conversation too. Like it's, do you know what I mean? It sets it. So if you said to Nathan, for example, hey dude, do you want to meet on Skype? We're going to have a couple of hour conversation. He might be a little bit distracted. He's probably going to be like, nah, you're all right. But if you say, look, we're going to sit and we're going to record a podcast. We're going to go through some old stories. We're going to turn our phones off. We're just going to be as together as we possibly can be and as connected and bounce off each other. Then it sets the tone, I think. I think you're more open, you're more honest, you're more fired up for a conversation rather than just a general chit-chat. So I'm excited for that. When have you got that coming out?
Well, it's been pushed back a bit, so because of these race review ones, which we keep harping on. But it's, I don't know when you're going to release this one. I can never keep...
It's probably going to come out after Crankworks, I think. It might come out on Friday.
So then maybe just after that. So keep an eye on my channel. Davey can link to it or whatever. And the Nathan Rennie one's going to be fun. Win Masters, he started a bit of podcast, but he's kind of busy racing, so he's dabbling with that. He's come on as well. I try to get a few done before I go on these trips, and then sometimes they get delayed. But anyway, enough of that garbage. That one's going to be hilarious. If you have any what's the word? If you enjoy mountain biking at all and follow a little bit of downhill, you have to get to know this guy, and this is a good one. And he drops so many nuggets. He drops so many life lessons and nuggets. It's like a guy that...
Is that Win or Nathan?
Well, both. Sorry. Well, both, but Nathan. Honestly, he's very well spoken. He's switched on. Funny as shit. He tells a story when they... So Petey and Sam, and the reason I'm talking about it is because Petey did talk about it in an article, so I'm not getting anyone in trouble. But Sam Hill won... in Fort William, the World Champs. I don't know if that was his second title. I didn't look it up. But anyway, so he wins the race. Petey and Rennie get the great idea after a few beers to snip his brake hoses and his spokes. Those bikes on display in SRAM at the time. Because back in the day, Jason McCroy, as far as I know, I didn't know too much of him, but I know he was a legend of the sport and very close to Petey and Warner. I'm going to butcher some of this, so I apologize and to be insensitive to the McCroy family and Petey and stuff. But either McCroy was late and the bike came in the van and there was Warner, there was Petey, and either like Warner cut the spokes or the brake hose on the way to the airport trying to cause trouble, or McCroy cut Warner's. I don't know. So they had that idea. So these guys tried to recreate that. And they thought it was hilarious. I thought it was hilarious. We thought it was the funniest thing ever. But we were all pissed. Sam and his mechanic obviously didn't think it was that funny. So this is my version. Rennie's going to tell his version, which is ridiculous as well. But I'm not condoning this behavior. I'm just, it happened. And those are the stories that no one really knows about. So the podcast gives you the platform to dig them up.
That's amazing. And that's definitely something that you bring to this table with the whole podcast thing, is there is inside knowledge. You've been on the scene for, what did you say, 14 plus years?
Yeah, 14 years. Yeah. And now this is 5th year post that, but being on covering the sport from various ways. Yeah.
So you've got that inside knowledge, which I did see. It's funny, not to keep harping on about Jason bloody Gypsy Tales, but there was someone in the comments section on Pink Bike, and I very rarely read Pink Bike comments, but someone said like there needs to be a Gypsy Tales for mountain biking, and I think that's your sort of calling, right? Those actual insights, because Jace is very well connected to teams, to riders, much the same as you are in mountain biking. So I feel like that's where
you should have replied and said, "It's there."
Dude,
it's there. What more? And then hit me up and tell me what you want, because I'll deliver it if it's going to be funny or add value. Yeah, that's cool, man.
So good. Yeah, I think that's your calling, though, man. You can offer that. You've got those insights, you've got those relationships with athletes, which they're not easy to get, those relationships for most people. Even I'd say for myself, having a platform and stuff now. It's still, if you meet someone for the first time and do a podcast with them, you do have a very, very good relationship after. It's a very strange thing that happens. It's something that I still haven't got my head around. I think it's funny, I was thinking it just as I was walking in here to talk to you. I was like, fuck, as if I'm about to sit and talk to Andrew Neethling, like talk to Needles, someone I've watched on TV for years and followed.
It, mate.
And no, honestly, dude, but I'm not like, I didn't come into this thinking, I'm a bit nervous, I don't really know how this is going to... Oh, God, what am I going to talk about? It's like, I'm just going to sit down and talk to you. It's cool. We talk quite a lot anyway, so... You know what I mean?
I'm shitting it for this guy I want to get on. I mean, he's X Games, gazillion medals.
Wow.
I have a lot of respect for him, but, I mean, that's going to take a lot of prep, because you want to be prepared. But maybe you give me some advice. Like, I kind of am
Don't over-prepare.
Don't over-prepare. It needs to be...
that'd be my advice,
don't be... Because I think if you overthink it, then you're going to be a bit tense. Like, we need to just have a conversation. You need to be in the moment. And this teaches you that.
Yeah.
But if you don't prepare, and you don't want to suck out, like... You want to... You owe that guy to prepare, though. Like, you owe to know enough. Like, if you say, watch me, okay, downhill, some races. You don't need to know what result in what year. That's not the point. But you kind of got to gather like his interests and where you can steer the conversation and stuff. So I'm gonna be.
Yeah,
it's
you're right.
I think that's a lesson. It's like, you know, that feeling when you're nervous and you don't actually want to do it. But the minute you start the recording or you do it, and the minute it's over, you're like, that wasn't even that hard. Why did I make it? But that's normal. It's a natural human phenomenon, and I think that's a lesson
resistance
to people out there. Like, if you're nervous of starting something new or you're uncomfortable, like, go into that feeling. There's a reason you're uncomfortable, but it's not always bad. It's not always like, what is it? Freeze, fight, or flight. That doesn't,
fight or flight,
it doesn't, you know, you might freeze because you're uncomfortable, but you might have to push through that. There's a reason you're uncomfortable. But I did remember you said to me, don't over prepare, don't make it too rigid because it's meant to be a conversation.
Yeah, I've had conversations like that, especially on the run up to them with certain guests, and you're just super nervous. And I think I've probably cancelled a few episodes too, just been like, oh, can we do tomorrow? Just because I feel just a bit nervous and a bit not really ready for it.
Yeah.
Definitely been a few of those, but I think the example I always use, and I'm sorry for people that have heard this story a million times, would be, I remember having Luca Shaw on the podcast.
Oh, you did tell me.
Many years ago, and just didn't know anything about Luca, did all this prep work and just blew through everything in like 5 minutes. And I was like, okay, it's time to just be yourself.
Did you save it by being yourself and just like going off tangent?
Dude, I would never go back and listen to that episode. I don't even know what we ended up talking about, but it must have been okay. But yeah, I can't remember, dude. I genuinely can't remember it at all. It's a long time ago now. But now it's, you know, I agree with you. I think coming into something like a guest that you're maybe not personal with or not familiar with, bullet point stuff. This is the stuff that I want to make sure I hit. And then just sort of skirt around the edges and just see where it goes. Because ultimately, I feel like sometimes the best conversations come from just being super organic and not really overthinking it.
Yeah, but
Macduff and I did 4 hours last night.
Yeah, but that's Macduff. He's a podcast. You're a podcast, so like it's gonna happen. But
yeah,
there are guests. Even if you do it casually, they can be difficult guests. You know, they're not as talkative. Sure. It's just how it is. So, and those are going to be those episodes. They're going to be a bit more flat, aren't they?
Yeah,
you know?
I think the early years of this too was I had a few guests personally that maybe didn't understand what a podcast really was. Yeah, it was. I mean, if you go back 5.5, 6 years, you know, people would be like, "You've got what? What is it, like a radio show?
Yeah,
like, what
true.
do I do? Do I just like dial in and off my phone and it's just like the worst quality ever?" So I had like a bunch of episodes like that were really awkward and a bit like pulling teeth. But then now, I think the majority of people have either done a podcast, they listen to them, you know, through the likes of Joe Rogan or
they've made it pretty mainstream. Joe Rogan.
They understand that it's like, right, we're gonna sit down, we're gonna, you know, my phone's gonna be off, I'm just gonna have a conversation, and I'm gonna try and be, you know, as open as possible. But yeah, it's all a learning curve, dude, isn't it? It's only going to get easier and better.
It's like anything. You just got to get the reps in, and you're going to be pretty shit in the beginning. Tim Ferriss has spoken how bad his first one was. And I got to that point, like, I'm comfortable. I'm comfortable speaking about races. I'm comfortable speaking to athletes. You know, and I'm asking my friends to come on because I know them. But I also made a conscious decision. I've reached out, like I said, to this guy. That's nerve-wracking. That's uncomfortable. Not just to get blown off, but like if he says yes, oh shit. And another one, I've gone like, I want to get into the motor industry because those guys all ride mountain bikes. I've met some of them. When I say met, like through a sponsor, went to the track. Hey, this is Andrew, and they're like forced to say hi to me and be like, okay, cool. Like don't get in my way on the moto track. I'm like, I fucking promise I won't. And you know, like I've had like short conversations with them in the back of a moto truck and stuff like that, and I've reached out through some people, through some connections, not just blind reaching out, and I haven't heard back from all of them. Heard back from some, and that's, I'm uncomfortable. I'm nervous as shit, and I know you got to get that first one out the way. It's like anything. Yeah,
you have, and like you said, I think the biggest thing is once you actually sit down and you press record and you get a bit of a vibe. It's all good anyway, isn't it, really? But it's that first bit of like, how's it going to be? How you doing? What's going on?
Yeah.
Let's just get it going. That's the first little bit that can be kind of nerve-wracking, I think. But ultimately there's a lot of learning lessons in that. I think sitting with it, you know, like you said, just enjoying that feeling sometimes. It is what it is. Just be present and just keep going. You know, what's the worst that can happen? You just don't put it out. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
If it doesn't go to plan, you know, you just don't release it.
Yeah, fair enough. Exactly.
Just edit it heavily in your own favor.
Yeah.
So
edit out all the sorry, I've lost my train of thought. I was like, dude, do you know what you're doing? And you just edit it all out.
Just edit it all out. So when we initially thought about getting into doing this episode and catching up, you know, you kind of reached out because you've seen the pink bike. Can we call it? Yeah, it's the pink bike state of the industry.
Yeah. I mean,
and I really want to get into
credit
this.
to them for putting out the survey and kind of digging into stuff we've maybe not seen before.
Yeah, definitely. No, definitely. Big credit to them. But I was curious, you know, when you see that sort of stuff come through, do you read it with a pinch of salt, or are you like, no, this is going to be legit? Because obviously there's no real data in there as to who they've spoken to, athlete wise or anything like that. You know, I guess we just have to take it on good word that it is, I'd say, athletes that how I don't really know how to put it. I wouldn't say big name athletes, but the right people, let's just say, you know.
Yeah, I mean,
I guess you just take it on good merit that they're doing that.
There definitely were some big hitters in there. There's some salaries over 500k, so pretty sure they got some big hitters. They only had one athlete from Africa. I can probably guess who that is. There's only a few. So those two correlations is a certain coincidence. But no, I think they said it themselves. I listened to their stuff as well. They said it themselves, like, you know, it's a small crop of riders. They try to get riders in the top 40. I mean, I might butcher some of it. Go read the survey. It's interesting stuff. It's stuff that we didn't really speak about.
I'm going to put a link to it in the show description for people if you haven't read the survey, because it is interesting. The full release is actually, it's quite interesting.
Because the interesting thing with mountain bike contracts, it's kind of, it's like not spoken about. And Gwyn was kind of the first guy that started speaking about what he's earning, what he thinks he's worth. And people could say, oh, he's after the money. But also, the more you speak about it, the more everyone knows, the more fair you can get paid. Because the likes of Nathan Reddy won that 2003 title on no money. He earned some money, but it was bullshit money for what he did compared to some riders he beat. But he didn't know. He didn't actually know any better. No one told him what to ask for. There weren't any rides going, so it is what it is. So with this coming out, you can start gauging maybe where you fit in as a rider, as an industry person, realizing, okay, cool, these top riders are earning X, you're a top 10 rider, or you can get a podium, like, you're kind of worth Y. So I think it's cool when we start speaking about this, because other industries, everyone knows what everyone earns. And it's not... Yeah,
especially when you look at American sports in particular, it's very much a badge of honor of like, oh, he's signed for X million. You know, that's how they use it, and that's ultimately how they're valued at that particular team too. I think that obviously comes with a lot of pressure though. That's the thing as well, right?
Yeah,
if you know you're earning the big bucks and there's thousands of people watching you, that's going to come with a certain amount of pressure. But yeah, you're right. I think that is one of the biggest topics in all this, is that most people, 99% of people who are fans of mountain biking, have no idea what these guys earn. It could be ludicrous money, but it also, the opposite side of that, it could be like, fuck, like as if they do it for that. That's insane.
But that is what came out, isn't it? How many people are on less than $5,000? So there are guys that are in the top 40, top 30. I don't really know. So that's just the nature of the industry. So I mean, at the end of the day, there's certain marketing budget, as you know, part of companies run companies, and certain marketing budgets are now set aside for a race team. Then that race team needs to go out, find some more sponsors so they get a bigger budget. Then they got to find riders. Then they got to have enough money for travel, etc., etc. So there is only so much that goes around. But where I have a problem is, back in the day when I rode, you get offered a contract. You don't know. You're willing to go to races for free because you did that as a kid, right? You just want to get a factory team. You just want to get to the World Cups and not have it cost you any money. So you're willing to take anything. But where I have a problem is, once you've got some top 10s, or you're the lead rider on the team, or you're on a factory team, is it fair that the guy risking his life and limb, i.e., look at what happened to Bulldog, but the guy that works for the company, or the mechanic, or the manager is earning more than the guy that's risking his life and limb? I don't know if that's quite fair. And I'm not
That's
calling
a strange
anyone
dynamic, isn't
I'm
it?
not calling
About.
anyone out. I'm just saying I think the system is a bit off there. You know, so you doing a full-time job by planning this whole thing, being this, you deserve every cent as a mechanic, as a manager. But now at what point does a rider get to earn at least that?
Yeah. Man, I don't even know how to start even trying to dissect that and how that even happens. It seems so alien to me that it'd work like that. I mean, I'm just trying to think of it and trying to put it in a different sort of way that I can try and figure out. I mean, it's almost like when you say staff too, let's just say, for example, you mean the staff are earning more money. That means mechanics. It doesn't mean team owners. Team owners is a different thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's you as an entrepreneur, and that's how you base a team and the risk you take. That can vary. But you can also have a factory team that employs a manager, employs staff, etc., etc. So, I just want to...
I mean...
We're just talking about it to understand and that it has happened and it can happen, and I'm not singling anyone out.
Yeah.
But 100%...
I'm just blown away that it does happen. Like, it's... I can't even comprehend how it would get to that. I mean, how does the athlete, who is the star of the show, and the team is supporting that athlete, how do they make more than the actual person that is the centre of this whole thing?
I mean, it can happen, like I say. So Nathan Rennie, I mean, he got on a team late. He you know, teams, factories decide to go in a different direction, so he didn't have a team. So he had to see what's, then you're sitting at home back then, emailing, texting, sending a smoke signal from Australia, trying to get a ride, trying to get someone to believe in you. And then there's only so much budget left back on the table. If someone says, shit, well, we got to pay for all your flights. That's $20,000. We got to pay your hotel. We got to pay your food. Mate, there's only like $10,000, $15,000 left. But come race for us. Do you want to race for us? We'll give you a little bonus on the side. Bonuses are performance-based. Some riders get less salary, more bonus. The more established you are, the more you're going to drive to have a bigger salary because you're a set name. I.e., Greg Minnaar is going to ride for a way bigger salary than his bonus. He's going to have a big bonus, but he's going to have a way bigger salary. So, that's how it happens. But it kind of sucks because it's like, but I'm full-time. I can't have a part-time job because I've got to be training. I've got to be away from home for 6 months. So I wish there was another way, but sure, it's happening. It still happens. It still will happen.
Yeah. Can we just unpack that a little bit? Because there's a couple of things that I really wanted to talk to you about. And I think this is almost like the perfect segue into doing it. So talk to me a little bit about contracts and about, what did your first contract as a professional athlete, what did that look like? And how bad was it?
And what crap was it?
How bad was it?
No, at the time it was great, but looking back now, it was less than a McDonald's wage. I mean, when you take it back to South Africa, and you're a 21-year-old upstart thinks he knows everything, you're stoked, right? But I don't know what to say about it. So the contracts, it's an awesome feeling getting your first contract when I had done 3 years racing for peanuts, and I had a lot of support, don't get me wrong. And I had to prove myself. I wasn't from an established nation where, I got more help. I had to establish myself. And once I got there, I got this contract. So you get in the mail, and it's a hell of a lot of legal jargon. Let me tell you that.
And do you have someone look over it? Are you switched on enough at that point? Or are you just stoked?
No, I'm stoked. So we'll unpack that. So I get it in an email. I think I was still at the last race of the season in Fort William with, 1 week to go home, so burnt out, no money in my pocket. So I get this contract. I just scroll straight down to the dollar salary amount. And there is one. So I'm stoked. So that's a start.
Yeah.
So, and they're paying for my expenses and there's a bonus schedule and stuff like that.
Okay.
But back then it's $15,000, right? And I'd had top tens in a World Cup the year before. So I don't know. Am I worth more? Am I worth less? I don't know. I'm a kid from South Africa. I'm phoning my dad, my late father, and I mean, he's not going to let me go, ask for more money. He's going to be like, be grateful. This is what you worked for, right? But I mean, that's not even money to go and 6 months around the world, freaking risk life and limb. You could get hurt at any stage, So I wish there was a way to I don't know if there's a way to standardize. There probably isn't. But you asked who looks over the contract, right? So my late dad, bless him. So he would look over it, but he just wanted me to have a ride. So he wasn't too fussed. But I'd made some connections with past teams I've been on, and I'm not going to name names, but listen to this story. So a year or two into some of my contracts, you have to renegotiate. So I outsourced looking over the contract to someone in the industry, just so that I wasn't, the wool wasn't pulled over my eyes. And I suggest everyone do that. Get a second opinion. Why not? And if you need a second opinion, phone me up. DM me. Slide into the DMs. I might not know everything, but maybe I've been through something. So anyway, this is a rule that I will live by, hopefully, for important emails. So I was talking to the person helping with the contract about the person at the company. And because that was in my head, I put that person in the to box instead of the person overlooking my contract. And I pressed send. So just be a 22-year-old realizing you have just spoken about what you're not getting, what you think you deserve, or how do we do this? How do we deal with this? There was no bad talk, but this was confidential information sent to the person that was meant to help me. I sent it to the freaking person doing the contract high up at the company.
Oh, no.
Bro.
How did that go down?
It went down. I was so scared. I phoned Gary Perkin, flipper that does amazing photography and was on the World Cup circuit. He was helping, I think, with my website at the time, and I was like, Gary, how do I get the email back? It's got to be it's obviously in space, right?
Can you catch it?
And he's like, I was like, you do the server stuff, like, no, bud, we're not getting that back. And I sat and I waited. And I think the reply was still quite professional because I hadn't made them aware that I was using someone because I wasn't paying the other person. I didn't have an official agent. I just paid them a once-off fee, I think, to help. And I think it just came back like, hi, pretty much, I think you should sign the version you have. We're not going to carry on negotiating. So luckily, I still got the negotiation, yeah.
Yeah, dude, that's crazy.
So you probably didn't think you were going to get that story tonight.
No, that's insane. That's really funny. Yeah. That is funny. What and so okay, so you get this contract, and what does it state in there? Like, what is it? I've never had a contract like that ever been given to me. So and no doubt a lot of people listening won't have either. So does it have media obligations in there? Does it have obviously a bonus structure? And then as you progress through your race season, do you know? Is it easy to remember? Like, okay, if I get this position, I get an extra whatever $1,000 or. How do you manage that? Because I know a lot of people would probably be like, oh, I forgot to ask for my money. I forgot to invoice it. How does it work?
Yeah, I mean, the contract, like I said, a lot of legal jargon. There's both sides. It's almost like a rental agreement, but, there's a company and there's athlete. There's obligations from both sides. I will say it's very, as with the landlord, it's often in the landlord's favor. It's often in the person giving you the monies. A little bit in their favor because, there's clauses like if you're injured for a certain amount of time, your pay can get docked. And some of those clauses I don't think are fair enough or weren't. So we're talking past, not current. Current, it's got a lot better. It's a lot different as an ambassador and stuff. So there's those sort of clauses. Got your salary, you got your bonus schedule. Back then there was media bonus for magazines and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, it's on your own account to make note of magazines you're in, go out and go and get those connections and do all that. But then it's up to you, I mean, to look at the fine print when you're meant to invoice for your salary. You know, are you invoicing? Do they need your bank details? Bonuses are great because you're obviously stoked to get a good result and then you can get a bonus as well. But you alluded to a point. So that's the contract, asking for money and, so NFL players get a lot of money and all this pressure and expectations. Remember, the more money you demand, the better you better race. The more you better. So, I mean, you want to win a race, you want to be Loic Bruni, you want to be Greg, you're going to eventually demand good money and you're worth it. But then that's where you need to be racing it for wins, podiums. The minute you start slipping, then the pressure starts building.
Yeah. What have you must have had conversations like that in your racing career as well. Like, where do those conversations come down from? Is it from like corporate? And how do those sort of conversations? And
performance? Performance?
Yeah, like how have they taken place? Like, is it like let's sit down, let's have a chat. Like, what's going on with you?
I think as a racer, or I speak for myself, like I always put so much pressure on myself, too much anyway. Like, I think any team that tries to do that or does that consciously is really looking for trouble. I think most, if not all teams I've been part of, very supportive. Everyone just, the better the riders do, the better the team does, the better the sponsors, they're more happy. It's this big ecosystem. But sometimes riding for certain teams, there is that you can feel it. You can feel that the riders haven't got the results. So you can feel the mechanics are tense. You can feel the that feeling's there. And I remember on early on, like, I was sitting there and sitting with the mechanic, and we get on very well. And I think he let slip. The guys in the office are talking and like, we got to step it up. And I was like, what? These guys haven't even been to a race this year. We're dealing with a bike that's not working. Like, then what do you mean? So that's tough pill to swallow when you are putting your heart and soul in. The mechanics are putting your heart and soul in, and sometimes the results are not going your way, and sometimes it's really, really tough because that does build. Because then if you're in a contract year, I mean, that's the year you need to perform. So if you have a 2-year deal and you do well in year one, it kind of sucks because if you don't have a good year two, sometimes they forget about year one. Yeah.
You mentioned something as well, just briefly, about like injury clauses. So have you had any issues with that in your career?
No.
Because I often, when you see someone get hurt, you straight away like, oh shit, like what are they going to do? I guess you still get paid, or you're not going to get any bonuses or. So
a lot of those things are put in there from the legal side of a corporation. We've had these discussions, and you get reassured that they've never really been acted on. And then I all props to the teams, these contracts. I've never had an issue with one of them. Touch wood, I didn't have a long injury, but I haven't seen it happen too much. I think they have to put it in just in case something goes on for really long, or maybe the athlete isn't wanting to come back, but he's healthy. I don't know. But teams have been really good. Like I say, so there's no bitterness to this. There's just like giving some first-hand information and hoping that it can improve and maybe be a bit more standardized. But I've only had really good experiences. I've never had like, hey, this line item here, you didn't quite do that, so we're going to dock your pay like 10%. Like, no one's ever acted on that. No one's acted on like an injury clause with me, that is. I can't speak for other riders.
Okay. Yeah. That's interesting. And then I think this is another like perfect segue into talking about like salaries and stuff. So within that contract, you really need to have made sure you negotiate travel expenses, because that appears to be probably the most expensive aspect of what you did for a living, which is traveling the world, eating in various places, different currencies, hotels, traveling around. That must super get expensive if you're footing that bill as a privateer or something like that.
Oh my
I
goodness!
can't even imagine how they're doing it.
No, me either. I mean, that's also so on that thing. Like for people to understand, cycling is a salary-based sport. Even though some of the salaries we spoke about can be looked at as low, but I think in road cycling is a bit more standardized as like a domestique. It's like a certain like base level to on a UCI team, and maybe that's a way to, hey guys, can we not standardize the teams a bit, and when you get a rider, he kind of needs to get paid in this bracket if he's going to be that type of rider. But anyway, before I lose my train of thought on that, where were we? I have lost my train of thought. Brilliant.
Talking about travel expenses.
Yeah, so the reason I lost it is because as a race team, you're not prize money based, you're salary based, and all your expenses on most of these teams are taken care of. So your flights, your accommodation, food on the way to the race, stuff like that. So you're not very out of pocket during races and during the season. But what I thought was interesting is slopestyle guys. There was good majority of slopestyle riders getting paid quite a lot, and that's good, getting paid decent. But not all of their contracts have travel allowances and budget. I don't know. I haven't looked at any contracts, not allowed to look at them, but I know that industry, freeride and stuff, you don't always have a travel budget. Sometimes on race teams, you have a travel budget, $20,000 for the year. You book your flights, go mad. Back in the day, corporate cards. I heard back in the days, some teams had, cards. The riders had the card. We don't want to hear about it. Go buy your food, go to dinner, whatever. Note to anyone, don't swipe those at the strip club. I never did that. I never had a corporate card. But if you're in a moment of desperation and you don't know where your card is, do not swipe a corporate card. You'll get fired. Because if the wrong person sees that statement. But the slope stylists, it must be tough because a lot of them have to pay for their flights, accommodation, food, extra baggage charges, stuff like that. So they're
Why do you think that is? Do you think it's because there isn't a physical team traveling around?
Yeah, it's just the setup of it. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Yeah, they've got to be. Yeah, it's just not the system that's been used really. That they get. Yeah, it's like there's not a lot of companies that say, okay, our free ride team, and here's the manager, and this is how it's run. It's like, okay, cool, we need a free rider. Here's your frame deal, and here's your money. And if you're not smart about it, you don't have a travel budget. And then, okay, here's your money for your tire sponsor. So you've got to kind of negotiate in how you want to do it. If you want to deal with your own travel or you want a travel budget. Look, some of them do, but I'm not sure how it all works.
Like you say, I think with the race team stuff, it's a lot of individual sponsors make up a race team, but with that, you've got an individual person with individual sponsors who, like you say, maybe they're not footing the bill for certain expenses and stuff like that. So that is interesting, how that works and how that dynamic plays out. But yeah, moving on, because it's, again, really nice. I want to talk about this stuff. Salaries. Arguably the most interesting thing, I think, in that pink bike state of our sport thing was, knowing, well, I was going to say what people earn, or more accurately, what people don't earn, to be honest. So I made a little note here because I read through it earlier. And just to put it into some sort of context for myself to understand. So check this. So basically 51.65% of riders surveyed earn less than $20,000, which is roughly 14.2 thousand pounds. I'm going to say pounds just because we got a lot of UK listeners. Which is roughly equated to about £6.73 per hour, which is just slightly over the minimum wage for 18 to 20-year-olds, and it's £2.18p less than minimum wage for adults over 23. So that, when you read that, you go, so there's 50% of riders in this sport earning less than minimum wage. And that to me is, maybe I'm off on this, that's kind of mind-blowing to think of where the sport's at. And I know there's been a lot of changes recently. If we could really look at the last 2 years where cycling or mountain biking, let's say, has had this huge boom, that doesn't seem to be filtering down to the people who are actually out there testing, riding, promoting brands that are selling all these bikes. Maybe I'm off on that. Again, don't want to throw anyone or anything under the bus. That's not what I'm about.
No,
not what this thing's about.
Me either. That's not what I'm about either. Definitely not.
So I just did a little bit more searching around. So according to this sort of market research website that I was looking at, the global mountain bike market is valued at about $7.38 billion.
Okay.
And that was in 2018, and it's projected to reach around 10 billion by 2026. Obviously, we've had a huge boom in the last sort of 2 years because of COVID. Your bike brands are sold out everywhere. I appreciate that. There's parts are hard to get hold of. Bike brands are sort of struggling to find bikes to sell, etc., etc. But given the fact that that is our global market value, to hear that you've got people out there riding for less than minimum wage, there's something, again, I'm not the right person to do this, but there's something somewhere isn't adding up. Would you say I'm off on that, or is that a correct thing to say?
I'm not the full expert on it either. I can come from a pretty minute side of the sport, being downhill mountain biking. You've got enduro, you've got cross country, right? But then now you've got social media, now you've got YouTube, you've got so many avenues where maybe bike brands are putting marketing dollars into. But what I'm also seeing and hearing is that some brands that are in moto and mountain biking, if we look at that turnover, mountain biking is doing very well even compared to moto. From what I've been told, I haven't seen the stats, don't quote me on it. I am hearing that. But if you compare some moto dudes' kit gears, moto riders' kit deals to a mountain bike kit deal, that is so skewed. That's totally not even in a ballpark. So that's pretty interesting, So that's pretty interesting there. And look, the survey, as they said, pinch of salt. They try to get the athletes ranked in the top 40, so you're not going to get everyone. But if you put everyone in the top 100, those stats are going to be even worse. You'll get a bit more people earning good money. I wonder what those stats would be. So, I just think we want people to be paid more fairly. Everyone wants everyone to do better. Fairly would be good. But so you say that big number, the billions of dollars in mountain biking. What's that compared to tennis or something like that? Or a sport that we can relate to and then compare the salaries?
Well, that's a good, and I think we are probably best just to sort of have a bit of a look around and stuff with this. But like you said, so I did a little bit of a look at basically what some of the top road cyclists are earning. And that's quite interesting, man, because that stuff seems to be a little bit more public.
That's where I heard there's a 40,000 euro, don't quote me on this, base for a domestique.
There is, they have a minimum wage that you have to earn if you're on a team.
On a pro team.
I did have it up actually. I think it's $30,000. I believe. I did have it somewhere.
That's interesting. I didn't know that. I think Wynn was speaking to someone about it, or I don't even know where I heard it. So it was interesting to hear that. I didn't know that at the time, that they've tried to set a little bit of a base salary. What are road bike sales? But obviously they've got more TV and budget comes from that, and events like the Tour de France is pretty global. It's interesting to try dissect it and look at why it's happening, and then if there's a way to, maybe improve it. But I do think, from speaking about Rennie again, those early 2000s, the sport was in a bit of a slump, wage as well. So he basically did the best out of anyone at a time when you didn't get paid that much. He was winning races at a time you didn't get paid that much. So that kind of sucked as well. And before him, there was Palmer earning, $800,000 salary or more or whatever. And Specialized was spending crazy money on their race team. But there was only a downhill race team. There was no enduro. Okay. There was no ambassadors. There was no social media. So,
Yeah, I was going to bring Palmer up as well because I've heard a few things over the years of people saying, you know, Palmer came into the sport and just raised the bar for everybody. He was, and again, maybe I'm off on this, wasn't he a little bit more public about money and talking about what he was earning and really trying to drive rider wages and prize money up?
Yeah, I mean, from
bringing in big corporate sponsors too, like truck companies and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, that was the heydays. Yeah. It was Mountain Dew, Chevy trucks. Like, these teams had corporate outside sponsors. And, you know, he was this figure, and I'm sure he helped Petey and stuff realize, and I don't know, you know, Lopes was pretty savvy back then, but they realized, like, but remember, it's supply and demand. So everyone wanted Palmer, drives up his salary. Now, if you're a rider and a few new teams come into the paddock, or a new bike brand wants to launch a downhill bike and says, okay, we want a podium rider. And then another bike brand says, okay, we're coming in, we need a podium rider. But now everyone's signed. If you get lucky and you're the only guy that can kind of get a podium potentially, and you're the only one available, guess what's going to happen? You know, there's a bargaining war, and you've got the power. But 10 riders up for negotiation, 3 teams looking. It's not looking good as well. So supply and demand there as well.
Yeah, it is super interesting. This whole thing it's a sort of fun topic because, again, like the flip side of what we just said about like the terrible side of it, you know, you said there was one person that came forward, didn't want to have his name mentioned, obviously, earning over $500,000, and then you've got, I think it'd work out at a quarter of the people, surveyed would earn over $50,000, which is good. It's good. But it's not. Could we both agree it's not great? Like, considering the value of the sport, like the money that's being exchanged around the top side of the sport, or bike brands, especially when you mentioned numbers like 7 point whatever it was billion dollars. It still seems a little off. You know, I think you drew a really interesting comparison with the Supercross / motocross side of things. Had a little look at that today, So if Ken Roczen wins a 450 main event, that's $12,000 cash prize, and then it goes down, almost halves every time. So it goes like 6, 3, 1, 1,500, whatever. And it just sort of goes down all the way down to last place. So that's a really interesting one again. But you know, even just a quick Google will show you that Roczen's salary is about $500,000, and then he's got all of the endorsements and stuff like that. You know, so he's going to be in the multiple millions per year.
Their championship bonus check is $1 million. Like, you win a full.
Yes, and then
if not
you know,
more,
again, you've got
like that back
there's an
day.
Event where you can win $1 million, dude. Like, you can go to the Monster Cup and win $1 million. I mean, it's.
I think
like you said,
I think the biggest prize money in mountain biking was like this. I don't know about mountain biking, but I remember there was 15,000 euros or something at a race in Germany.
Really?
And then after tax.
So is there bonuses from? You know, if Roczen wins that race, for example, he's going to get a bonus through Feld or through the AMA.
Roczen's going to get a bonus from Fox. He's going to get a bonus from Honda. He's going to get a bonus from Red Bull. Like, however he structured his contract. So
what I mean, so with mountain biking, what I meant is that $12,000 for winning the race comes from the organisation of the race. Is this the same in mountain biking? So does the UCI? Is there an amount of money that you win if you win that race?
What, at a UCI downhill mountain bike?
Yeah,
it's like $3,000, $3,500. I don't know. Don't quote me. I don't know. Okay. I only got third at one. Right. I didn't get first. But so here's the stupid thing. So you want to be a privateer, mate? The guy that wins the race, Aaron Gwynn, Greg Menard, he barely covers his expenses to get to the race. So it's not set up that way.
Yeah. God, it's such an interesting topic, isn't it? And
there should be a little bit more prize money. Like, imagine you're a privateer and you get 10th and you get 300 euros.
Yeah.
Or 200. I don't know what it is.
It makes it tough, dude.
But here, back to the crux of it. You would ride down that hill for free because that's what you started doing. You love doing it. I still love doing it. I was never bitter about any of my salaries. The minute you sign that contract, you better not be bitter. You signed the contract. So I'm not even bitter about the past ones. We're just talking about it. I'm so grateful for the sport. I'm so grateful that you can get paid to race a bike. But it's an interesting topic that hasn't been spoken about that much. And now there's a survey coming out, or Gwyn's talking about it a bit more. And, Palmer did that back in the day. And now it's like, hang on.
And these athletes too, that, I see that they're starting to get actual management, actual agencies, I guess with slopestyle even, you've got, and sort of freeride, I guess you've got Resolution looking after certain athletes like Danny Mark and Emil Johansson and all these people. Then Aaron famously had the sports agent, didn't he, who came in and really tried to ramp up his salary and his value. So do you think there's going to be more of that start happening? Is there going to be more agents coming into it from sort of outside mountain biking?
Maybe not outside. I mean, it's a weird thing with this industry. I think maybe inside the industry, it depends on the athlete. I think it is a sport. Some teams don't like dealing with agents, and that's no disrespect to the agent sometimes. But why is that? Because what the agent's trying to drive what they're worth? I don't really know. I don't know. If I was an agent, I'd love to do it. I'd love to help because I want fairness. It's like, hey, come on. These are his results. This is what the guys get paid before him. Come on, let's make this happen. Or like, okay, cool. Yeah. Let's give him a bit more bonus. You want him to earn it. Let's try it that way. And we go from there. Yeah. So no, I don't really see it outside the industry. There is money in the industry, but maybe like not as much as the outside, But a lot of riders would do good to have an agent or someone to help them a little bit, so that they're not naive and they don't just take the first offer.
Yeah, I think you've alluded to that a few times, talking about, just that stoke of, wow, I get to get paid to ride my bike. Amazing. You get to live this life, and you see certain athletes that are obviously having an amazing time doing this. I think instantly people like Ed Masters does spring to mind. You follow Ed Masters on Instagram, it's a ball. Whatever he's doing is pretty damn fun. Yeah. Now I know Ed's probably getting paid pretty well. I don't know, but I'm going to say that he's arguably one of the top guys in the sport. But there's a lot of people, like you said, that it's like, oh wow, I get to just ride my bike for a living. Cool. All right, I'll just take whatever, and I just get to live that lifestyle. But there's, like you said, it's that fairness thing. It's like, are brands gonna maybe prey on that a little bit of like, we'll just give this kid like an opportunity to just ride his bike, and we'll be able to get away but with paying him less than $5,000 for the privilege of him being able to do that. But then, to play devil's advocate to that, there is then that element of, okay, but it's going to cost us 1,500 quid for a flight, and we've got to do 10 of those, and then we're going to pay for every hotel and all the food. And I can see how it does ramp up, but ultimately I think athletes have got to think that there is life after this. And that's something we spoke about on one of our first shows that we did. There's life after this. If you're not set up and all you've done is ride a bike for X amount of years and blown all your money partying and just living this lifestyle, yeah, it's great, don't get me wrong. I'm not much of a planner for the future anyway, but ultimately there's got to be something after it. You've got to have, you can famously look at, again, I'm going to use American sports as a bit of an example, but like the NFL and the NHL, they pay a pension to everyone who's participated.
That's a key thing. I guess
with mountain biking, you just like, see you later, you're done. You're not riding anymore, no problem, thank you.
Yeah.
Where do you stand with that?
I stand with that. It's a brilliant point, man. I wish there was a bit more standardized, and would it be that hard to do, to standardize some of it? And if you want to be a UCI trade team, each rider's got to give whatever % of the salary, or you've got to match it and put it into an investment fund. And you can see how much you've contributed to it and what it's worth over time. I mean, big sports like PGA Golf do that. I think they withhold some of the prize money, which is how they earn their wage. Withhold some of the prize money, it goes into a pension fund, and I don't know how they distribute it. That's for the investment guys to figure out. But safe investment, everyone contributes. If you contribute more to it, you get more later. That would be awesome. imagine you did 10 years and you earned a salary for 10 years and you were forced to invest some and it's grew and it grew and grew. And then 20, 30 years time, you got 500 euros a month back. That's your portion. You just get it. Or whenever whatever age, if you want it from 40, 50, I don't know how it would work. That would be cool. Just a thought exercise. Because not all the riders are educated to put some away. But on top of that, if you're a rider that's racing for 10, 15 years in a sport like this, how cool will it be to be a little bit more set up, have earned enough money and be set up after this? Like you say, so you've learned to ride a bike, can race downhill very well. And then at 30, 25, 35, whatever it is, you step away. Now what? You didn't go. Some of these riders, so here's the problem. Some of the riders, if you want to get a pro contract, you basically got to race juniors. So how much school are you doing? Right? Then the minute you hit 18, so there's no university. Especially for guys that are coming from other countries. Yes, there's correspondence and stuff. I don't know if everyone can study and race at a high level. Either,
Yeah, there's always going to be a few exceptions. Straight away, Finn Isles springs to mind. I know he was doing some university stuff, but again, there's going to be some anomalies in that. Like, there's going to be a few kids that are like just different than everyone else, right?
But I
know if my personality was like, you can go ride a bike for a living, or you can go to university. I'm going to ride a bike, but also if they said you can do both, I'd be like, nah, you're good. I'll just ride the bike, thank you, and I'll just get a little bit better at that.
Yeah, but
there'd be no.
I could have done that if there was maybe back when I did there was not real correspondence, right? So say there was now. Is that the best way for me to perform at a high level if my goal is to win races? Is to get podiums and stuff? I don't want to walk the track and then have to go hit the books and then wake up, think, but I've got that test. Oh shit, no, hang on, I've got to figure out Leogang, it's wet. Like, okay. So that's a pretty tough challenge to have. On the off season you can gain some tertiary education if you have that personality style. But it would be really cool if more riders were set up, because life after racing is tough. It's mentally tough enough. But if you have some savings and some investments and you're not as pressured, I think it's a whole lot easier. It's not all about that. But I would say that it's a whole lot easier. Like Greg Menard. I don't think I hope he doesn't have to work again in his life. I hope not. I really hope not. Yeah. And that's up to getting paid enough, racing like he did, being smart, and he'll do ambassador stuff and stuff like that. He deserves that. Other sports get it, and you're giving the world entertainment.
It's an interesting one, and I know these sports that we talked about just before are different. There's a lot of money involved and stuff. I'm just trying to figure this out in my own head. I'm sorry if I'm all over the place, but it's like, let's say Greg Menard retired, this week. It'd be interesting to know, like, what does that look like for him? Is there, like, the UCI and whatever governing body are like, you've done amazing for us. Like, think of the eyes you've brought to the sport.
Are you joking right
Here's
now?
your pension.
Oh,
There's literally nothing. No, I'm not saying that it's not going to happen. That's what I mean. Like, what does that look like? It's just walk away. Whereas if that happened in almost any other sport, I think, NFL, NHL, anything that I'm interested in, golf, you're a legend of the sport. I mean, I'm not saying he's not a legend, but I'm going to guess that there's going to be some pretty tasty endorsements involved still. There's going to be a bit of a pension. There's all these benefits of putting that time and effort into building your career. And I just feel like mountain biking does feel a bit like, see you later. Go start something else. Start your own company just to make ends meet.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like. And again, I might be off on that. Nathan Rennie surely feels like a good example, right?
Definitely. I mean, he also walked away.
But a world champion.
Yeah, he was a World Cup champion. He was a junior world champion. He did a lot for the sport, and he was burnt out. And I think he'll be honest that maybe he didn't make all the right decisions near the end, but he doesn't have any regrets. But I mean, luckily he was earning some money and put some away. But I hope the listeners don't think we're complaining. We're just having a conversation.
Oh man, I'm just chatting. Just chatting.
And we need to come up with some solutions, but some sort of standardized pay. The reality of that's tough. Pension fund would be pretty cool. Like if you were forced to put into it, maybe you get a little bit back. I mean, if everyone put into a fund and you had this guy growing this fund over years, That'd be pretty cool. Must be a system to work that out. You get a little bit of pocket money. You know, in your old age would be pretty cool.
I think one thing I also wanted to make sure I definitely spoke to you about was we've sort of touched on it, but athletes becoming more than just racers. You know, they're moving into doing YouTube content and social media, and that this is very new for our sport. It's very new for anything, right? So I think there's also now that added factor of brands not knowing how to value athletes like that is so interesting, because these athletes now, it's not just about winning races, or, you know, it's about brand awareness campaigns, it's about social media, the vlogs, and obviously that is starting to hopefully help these athletes make up the salaries a little bit. If you can have a good vlog, again, you know, initially people that string to mind would be someone like Brendan, whose vlog content is getting hundreds of thousands of views. Like, that's going to be paying him pretty good. You know, you can launch a merch line off the back of that. Then you've got your social media, which is, you know, upwards of whatever that is, let's say 300,000 followers or something. That all has a very, very big value now to a brand. And I wonder if that's must be starting to come into play when it comes into contract negotiations, because, you know, I heard a story a little while ago. It's like, if you book Kevin Hart to do a movie, it's going to cost you, let's say, $10 million. If you want Kevin Hart to promote that movie on his social media channels, that's going to cost you another $10 million.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So it's like, how do athletes now go, okay, yeah, I'll ride for you, you know, or, you know, I'll ride for this bike brand, but if you want me to really promote this thing through various channels, this is what it's going to look like. And I wonder how that's starting to, you know, to play out. Super interesting. Have you got any insights on that?
No, I mean, that is interesting. And I think back in the day, if you were a racer and your racing results weren't going as well, what else did you have? And I always worked on networking, photo shoots, video parts, stuff like that. So when I had a crap year, I maxed my bonuses, and I actually ended up getting raises here and there off the back of the value you provide. And I think we must define the value. You know, for some brands there is value in eyeballs, but in other brands, what are you paid to do? You're paid to race down a hill and get results. That's what you need to see. And it's a slippery slope when you're wanting both, because one of them is going to slip. But I think what you alluded to is all these channels help build brand awareness, build the image. So if they're able to prove that they're helping the image, I think that's of value. But eyeballs, to me, they're important. Everyone wants them, the reach and the eyeballs and stuff. But like, who is watching it? Can you really define that? Can you define that into ROI? I'm not sure. I wouldn't want to be a marketing manager right now. How difficult is that? But I mean, the cream rises to the crop. You know, the guys that you can see are really adding value, putting the effort in, doing that extra vlog, or doing whatever you feel like doing, you know. But it is an interesting thing, because depending on who you are, I think sometimes you're doing it to keep the sponsors happy, and the sponsors do want to see you doing that. So it's an interesting side hustle of the industry now.
Yeah, and I think for some athletes it's become more than a side hustle.
Yeah.
That's the thing, isn't
because
it?
Because they own their
They've
brand,
transcended from the racing to like being the brand behind whatever, whether it's Death Grip or insert other, you know, whatever person or whatever doing something, you know. And in fact, me and Matt were talking about it yesterday a little bit. You know, we were having a sort of conversation about his show and how that's growing. And I was like, dude, like, look what you're doing. Like, for a brand to get involved with you, you are a wealth of knowledge when it comes to health and wellness. You're not just like speaking to mountain bike people anymore, or action sports people. You're speaking to people who are interested in meditation and all this sort of stuff. Like, your value it's very different, and it's kind of hard to figure out, okay, what's that worth now? You know, we're tapping into all these new people, you know. So I again, just sort of riffing on that, and just sort of wondered if you had any insights. And yeah, you know,
I mean, it's
similar for you. Super, you know, you've got the podcast now, so that is another element of what you bring to a bike brand.
It's super interesting
because it's a very unique thing.
Yeah, it is unique, definitely. And I think back to your point, you know, if you're worth X before you had a channel or some of your own ways to get your brand out there, i.e. a podcast or whatever, then to me that's an extra bit. To me that's an extra bit. If you are still performing in your chosen field as well as you were before and you renew a contract, hey, but we need to see our brand more in the vlog. Hey, we need to see the brand on the podcast. I don't know. To me, is that not an extra? Because you own that. And you transcend the sport because you're now your own brand, your own media channel. Joe Rogan is his own media channel.
You have nobody to answer to with this.
Yeah,
You
which
could,
is the
in
awesome
theory, do
thing.
what you want.
Because you're answering to everyone, yourself for results, your team for results, your team for sponsor obligations. Now you go, hang on, it's quite cool. It's my own thing. But they do cross over because if I swear too much on this, I am associated with the brand, right? Hey, Needles, you better tone it down. Oh, yeah, sorry, I got excited. Or, hey, did you really say this controversial thing? And I hope nothing here. To me, we're just spitstorming. To me, I don't even know if it sounds controversial because I just want the sport to be better. And that's the podcast. That's me as a brand ambassador. I just want to grow the sport. Get more people on bikes.
You know, this is a nice little segue, but maybe I don't know where we can really go with this. But one thing that really stood out with the survey was that one of the questions was, I think it started with has, but let's just, put it in context. Has social media had a negative impact on your mental health? And the most popular answer was agree.
I also agree.
Nearly 40%. So, how do we figure that out? So we're saying, athletes are bringing all this attention to brands, but it's having a negative effect on their mental health.
Yeah.
So how do you,
fair enough.
how confusing is that? But then again, you've got certain athletes that really, really are good at social media. Ed Masters jumps out, and I'm just going to name people that I enjoy following. Someone like Chaos, Cade, someone like Ed Masters, Win Masters. They seem to have a lot of fun with it. But then there's certain people who are maybe a little bit more serious with the social media. Someone like Gwyn probably springs to mind. I don't think I even follow him, but I'm going to suggest that he's not the most open book. It's not about, oh, look at this cool thing I've done. It's very much like, this is what's going on, like the racing side of things and the competition side of things. And that social media element probably takes away from what they actually want to be doing, which is racing and trying to beat the clock. So that it's super interesting that, we're talking about how much value does social media and different forms of media bring to an athlete's value, but it's damaging their mental health, according to that survey.
Well, maybe we need a pension for mental health.
Yeah,
for
it's crazy.
race.
It's super interesting, though, isn't it?
It is interesting. Yeah, I mean, some people enjoy it. Some people get a kick out of it. I think it can be distracting for a racer. I think that sponsors put pressure on them at wrong times is tough, but it's an ecosystem. So you scratch their back, they scratch yours. That can help everyone. But on the mental health side, that's super interesting. I do think it is a super slippery slope, and I think look, you're obviously probably listening to us through a cell phone, but at least hopefully it's in your pocket. Maybe you're on a bike ride. Maybe you're walking in nature. It's this. So it's all competitive, and to me, it's quite tough. Like if you're happy to boast or share your stuff, that's cool, and I think that's what does well on social media. The better you are at a given activity, the better you're going to be on social media. Look at Cade and Chaos. I don't always like sharing stuff because it's like, oh, look at me. But then when I'm on social media following, say, some motocrossers and Roxon does a nasty whip and he puts it on his own page, I like it. I'm like, that is insane. I aspire to do that. So I forget that. So there's that side. But also, it's, I don't know. The vanity side is an interesting side for me, but maybe I'm just looking at it incorrectly, and that's just how it is. I mean, I don't think people are being vain. They went to Darkfest, they spun the step up, someone gave them a clip, they put it on social media. They're just broadcasting on their channel. And they would have...
And it's aspirational, it's motivational.
And, 99% of them would have done that trick without the cameras there. So that's authentic, So it's a tough one. But you saw in that survey too, like some of them said they're doing it because of their sponsors. So that's not authentic. So it's tough to be authentic all the time and be on social media all the time. It's not good for your mental health. So if you're able to post and get off it, but then you're not engaging, and people want you to engage. So I don't know where you stand on it. You're also standing on the side, like you say, following these accounts, looking at the survey. What do you make of it?
The one thing that I've really been thinking about just while you were talking then was ages ago I had this idea to set up tried to set up a fund for athletes to basically use if they were struggling with mental health problems or depression, anxiety and stuff like that. So I had this idea I think it basically came from obviously through the podcast and chatting to various athletes and becoming a little bit more friendly with certain people, name no names obviously, but you find out a lot about these people and that it's not all rosy at the top, like it really isn't, and that some of them are struggling, they're having mental health issues, the stressed, the depressed, whatever, insert other. And this conversation's really made me think, if you look at, so if 50%, okay, so sorry, let me just unpack this a little bit. The reason I wanted to do this was I think that most people look at mountain biking and think, these guys are making a fortune, they've got this energy drink on the helmet, it's all good, it's all sweet, they ride the bike for a living. But as you get to know certain people, you find out that that's, on social media, they're only showing you the highlights. They're actually really not that happy. Maybe they're not that financially sound. So what I've really just been thinking about was, if 50% of people surveyed, obviously let's just insert that there, are earning less than $5,000, just shy of 40% are struggling with the mental health because of social media. That to me verifies what I originally was thinking, that there needs to be some help for these people that they can go to anonymously and say, look, can I get £200 for a therapy session? Because if you take £200 out of that wage, for example, going to therapy is bloody expensive. Just to talk to somebody, to speak to a counsellor is going to be £100 a session, let's say. If you want to do that 10 times, you've spent £1,000, pounds, a fifth of your salary is gone, just trying to sort your head out to go and do the thing that you want to do for a living. So it sort of verified all this sort of stuff a little bit for me, that actually these people do need a little bit of help. And I appreciate it's not for everybody, and hopefully I'm not speaking out of turn a little bit here, but again, as I've got to know certain people, I'm like, fuck, like, it's not all rosy up there, and it'd be nice to be able to offer people, maybe get some counsellors on board and stuff like that these athletes can speak to if they're having trouble with, even if it's performance anxiety or stress, depression, again, or just just need someone to talk to, because it's a high stress job, dude, especially if we're looking at it as downhill and slope style and enduro. If you're going through shit in your life and you've got to go and perform for a bike brand that's paying you not a lot, that's stressful. Maybe they need some help a little bit with the performance side of it and the mental health side of it. So it sort of verified that a little bit. Those two little facts were like, there's a bit of a correlation there for me.
And maybe there's some synergy with the thoughts and the challenges I've spoken to you about. And that's, even if you do have a good career and you put money away, you still have to transition away from this awesome lifestyle and this freaking everyone putting you up on a pedestal. And dude, it's exciting out there. It's fucking awesome. Look at that race. Do you know what you feel like when you get down that course and you've had a decent run and you're around about what you expected to perform or better, or what Troy feels there?
Yeah.
Okay, right? Now, fast forward 10 years, he's going to pack that in. And then what? He's going to be mowing his lawn with his trophies and shit? He's going to be missing it. I miss that. Oh, do you miss it? Hell yeah, I miss it. All the good things. But I'm aware enough that I hate the bad things. Dealing with the mud, the pressure, like all these things we've been speaking about. I'm like, whoa, easy now. Don't go try get back in the World Cup circuit because you want that feeling. So that gets me to like, is there maybe a mix of this and helping athletes transition away in retirement? Or they get injured and they can't do the sport? Like that PTSD of war veterans and stuff. It's a traumatic experience, I think, is not just the big war or the car accident or losing someone. If you have little bits of trauma and a little bit of emotional scarring and that builds and builds and builds, then maybe what you've spotted and what I think needs some help can mesh together. And a fund and starting something is awesome. I mean, like Win has the privateer fund. That's awesome. Like I donated. Hey guys, go to Win's page. Win. I don't know. It's in his Instagram bio. Win TV maybe.
Let's we'll put the link in the show description
donate,
too, because
like,
it's
that's
really,
so
really
cool.
good what
that's
Win
great.
does.
But on this point, am I then kind of going the same way? Like, shucks, maybe we should test it and see if people need it anonymously or however it works. Because I can speak about this. Martin Soderstrom came on the podcast with me, and he was open about the panic attack he had. That also came from the struggles of stepping away from slopestyle, stepping away from the limelight. All sorts of things went into his body reacting that way, and he spoke openly about it. It was one of the most well-received episodes because why? It was so raw. It was because, like you said, we just think it's rosy. It's Martin Soderstrom. He's this tall, blonde, good-looking Swedish dude with Red Bull helmet on his head, winning slopestyle events, going through injuries, coming back. Hey, he must be fine. He must be having the best life. No. It's not the truth.
It's funny, man, because it's not funny, but like Martin's one of the guys basically that I had that conversation with. You know, he came on my show too a few years ago now, and we had this really sort of deep conversation and like, fuck, like
he's a deep thinker too, huh?
He's a deep thinker. He goes through some, and we've kept in touch a little bit, and you know, he's been through and he's going through some shit, and it's people like that you know, I don't know how he's set up financially, but it doesn't have to be a Martin Soderstrom. It can just be a other person who's racing World Cups and just scraping through as a privateer who can potentially have access to some help, because it doesn't sound like it's going to come easily to them, you know, to get that sort of stuff. So
I think this is a brilliant initiative, and be silly of us not to see where or how it could go offline, you know, and maybe we can use the podcast channels to promote it as well.
More, for sure,
because
dude, definitely. This has been something of mine that I've talked about a lot, that never actually pulled the pin on it. So, just a sort of athlete.
And here's something, I'll be vulnerable. So I lost my father. I've been to sports psychologists before. I wanted to improve my racing, get a head coach, try a head coach. I think it worked. I think within reason, if you manage it well, it can be a positive benefit. And I've been to some counseling or whatever you want to call it, post losing my dad. And it was raw, it was hard getting those emotions out. But I've kind of kept it up because, so I'm going to pull host duty here for Dave. I think we had a little technical difficulty, but he spent 30 minutes trying to edit this. So we're back. You probably lost me talking about going for counseling. So good luck with the edit, Dave, and we're back. So I just continued to go, you know, like I buried a lot of emotional stuff with losing my dad, and I spoke about it on some podcasts, and people shy away from speaking about it. People shy away asking me how I'm going. They don't want to like bring up raw emotions. Like I love speaking about my late father. He's most of the reason I got to where I was, with his support and my mom, whole family, and lots of others. But you know, like he was my biggest fan. But I had some emotional scarring from that, and I just buried it like the athlete I am, and carried on doing ambassadorship commentary and just busy in bike shop at home, and just, you know, I was angry at shit. I was angry at the world, you know, like someone got taken away from me. So the reason I'm bringing it up is people look at me and say, hey, you've transitioned well, you're doing so well. How did you deal with your dad so well? It's like, well, I buried a lot of it, and I didn't talk about it enough, or I didn't deal with it. And I think counseling's brilliant.
Yeah.
It's like life coaching.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, definitely.
You get to talk to someone that you're not going to tell that stuff to. I don't care how much you love your mom. your brother, your girlfriend. There's certain things that you are able to speak to someone. It's weird about the stranger with the skill set to maybe unpack it with you. Look, not everyone needs to go. Not everyone should go. I'm just saying, if you're thinking about it, think about it some more. Some people speak about it to a friend and are able to open up, and that's their counseling or meditation of it. But I think it's a brilliant point, and I think we could do some good in the sport, and maybe that is something we can solve, because these other things, there's a lot of bureaucracy and red tape to solve.
Definitely can't sort out a lot of it. But thank you, man, for being so open and honest about that. It's lovely to hear from you how you've done that and how you continue to maintain it, because I think it is important, but ultimately it is going to cost a decent amount of money for someone to do that, especially if they're young and they're trying to make it in a sport. It's not going to be an easy thing that they can just go and do and take time out to do. So I think putting together some sort of package that, athletes can access, whether it's, also doing sort of webinar stuff and get people to come and talk to people about certain different things, could be super interesting. It could be a good resource. So yeah, I think, let's pick that up after and see what we can do. I'd be excited to definitely work with you on it for sure, man. That'd be amazing. See if we can't get something going, because there's one thing I need: another project.
I was going to say, I was like, I think I've taken on too much.
That's exactly what I want.
I've got an awesome charity that started at home, and he asked me to be an ambassador, and I said, well, you've basically launched what I want to do, but a little bit stuck doing some other things. But if you're able to run it, I'll push it as much as I can. It's an awesome. Oh, speaking of that, so it's called Pedal Project. If you'll allow, we can link to it in the show notes, because he's super new.
Yeah.
And he is targeting kids that have been through traumatic experiences in the township and underprivileged areas in South Africa, because a lot of these kids are around trauma, or have been through trauma, who have seen it, and a lot of them are seeing a few of it like before the age of 6, and we all know how important it is to have a decent development really young in your life. And he's taking these kids, he's picking them up, and he's taking them mountain biking, he's taking them to the forest, he's taking them to the woods. And it's not necessarily like a high performance mountain bike academy. It's to really help these kids see and deal with trauma, and get in nature, get away from maybe a tough home environment, and get on a bicycle, learn a new skill, and talk to this guy. So he'll get, he's going to get education, and is educated in a little bit of this counseling to speak to these kids.
That's
awesome. That's actually really crazy. Exciting. Yeah, I forgot about that. So it's only just launched. Hooked him up with a client from the bike shop, and they donated some bikes, and I'm helping with his proposals, and he's quit his job. Like, he's really passionate about developing this academy and this charity to help kids that have been through traumatic occurrences and events in their lives. No, it's actually a similar thing.
Yeah. So link in the show description to find out about that for sure. We'll put a link to the website. Even if
Pedal
you can't
Project,
donate, just have a read.
It's really cool, yeah. And I left like the day they went for the first ride, so I haven't been able to ride with these kids.
Okay.
But I've seen the smiles on their faces, and look, he's got a lot of hard work ahead of him. It's exciting riding with the kids, but the fundraising and doing all that to make it sustainable, to get these kids, he's got to go and pick them up, get a trailer with the bikes, maintain the bikes, take them to the forests and the mountain biking. So anyway, that actually just sprung to mind. That's pretty cool.
Perfect. Thing. That's really cool. Yeah, really cool. Link in the show description, folks. Get it. Go take a look.
Do you actually do that? I always say I'm going to link, and then I never link half the shit I say I'm going to link.
I make a little note here, and I'll throw it down.
Nice.
Nice. There's two things that we haven't spoken about that I really want to talk to you about. Number one would be, it's sort of related, sort of to Salaries, but not really. Would be like energy drink companies coming into the sport. I had a really interesting conversation with McDuff about this last night, about energy drink.
Oh, I'm sure you did. I'm going to have to listen.
Not really about energy drinks, actually. Sort of different, but kind of connected. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. You've witnessed this, I think, firsthand. Energy drink companies coming into the sport. You were a Rockstar athlete for a while. Is that right? Connected to the team?
Yeah, I was.
So you're on Rockstar for a little while. So is it good? Is it bad. You know, I mean, ultimately it looks good from the outside looking in, but being on the inside, what do you see happening? Is it, you know, is it sustainable? Is it going to keep happening? I don't know. I'd just be curious to hear what you think.
I think it's here to stay. I mean, Monster were top 3 on the podium, I think.
Oh yeah,
it's pretty funny because it's on Red Bull TV and stuff. But Monster had like the top 3 athletes. I don't know. You know, back in the day when I was young and I didn't know much about nutrition and health, to me it was like, while he's sipping a Diet Coke. Yeah, sure.
First time I've had one of these, man, for about 5 years.
Whatever, now you busted on live podcasting. I mean, energy drinks when I was younger, I mean, it was a prestige to it. When you saw like a Red Bull hat or something, you know, that was always like the top of the sport in whatever sport they were. And to a certain extent, there still is that prestige. I think it's diluted a little bit now. You know, and when I was younger, I mean, it was awesome. Threw a bunch of money at me and they painted the helmet and I thought I was cool as shit. So to the point of like, we're trying to get everyone paid more. This is an avenue. They're promoting the sport. The reach is getting out there. Do I think you should be smashing a lot of energy drinks? No. I mean, like, but too much of anything is bad.
Yeah. I feel like they have their place a little bit in society. I don't really know what it is, but yeah. To be fair, dude,
been around for how long? So,
yeah.
Like, do I think you should have a lot of it? No. Do I drink some when I want to or need to? Yes. Do I like that they're in the sport? I don't know. I mean, I don't have the balls like Josh Bryson to say no to a big fat check.
Yeah,
maybe I should have, you know, more courage to say, hey, I don't believe in a certain thing. But to me, I could manage it. So, like, if I don't wear it, the next guy's going to wear it. That's also a cop-out if I say that's my reasoning. Yeah, okay, well, I'm going to turn it down. Well, then they just go to the next guy, and then it's on red, and then it's on the broadcast anyway.
Yeah, that check's going somewhere. Yeah,
check's going somewhere, whether you like it or not. But that's, you know, I do think we need more people to stand up for what they believe in. So I'd like to hear what Matt says. I'm sure he's very against it. I think you've got to be aware of what you put in your body as a whole, whether it's energy drinks or processed food or a candy bar. So yeah. It does help the riders get paid more. It does help events like Darkfest go ahead, which we all love seeing.
And also for athletes, you know, as well, it you know, it's one thing that has kept coming up throughout this podcast. It's like athletes that are signed to one of those big brands, they get looked after. You know, if you get injured, boom, you're out. Especially with Red Bull, you know, if we're going to name names, like with Red Bull, if you get injured, you've got that helmet, you're going to get looked after. You're going to go to the best spot. You're going to get, you know.
Yeah, look at that side. I mean,
and
that's
like look
incredible.
at Brooke. Like look what they did for Brooke when he got injured, or Danny, or whoever. You know, anyone really. Emil, fucking hell, everyone who's getting injured, they'll take care of you.
It's awesome. It's so if you get, you know, you get a wage, and that's a bonus on top of it. It's take home money. So. Do all the athletes drink them? No, there's no ways. I mean, those bottles on the podium, half of them got water in. I don't know. Didn't hear it from me. I don't know. Maybe. So.
Yeah, I think that's been a speculation for many years, right?
But maybe to keep it lighthearted, to hijack your show, but hopefully the bullet point was there. So, salaries, blah, 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 like how do the riders get paid more? So an interesting topic was brought up again. It was, okay, so downhill is a time trial sport. Why aren't they in skin suits? They used to be in skin suits. Don't you want to go as fast as you can go? So I will start this with, unless you have wrapped yourself in a condom and ridden down a hill at 50k an hour, I don't know if it's fair that you can comment on this topic.
Have you done it?
I have wrapped myself in a condom, i.e. a skin suit. It's horrendous.
Is it really? I can't even imagine what it's like. Well, I can imagine in a way. It's like wearing Lycra and you're out on your road bike, but riding down rocks.
It's Lycra.
Yeah.
It's Lycra. And you got rocks, roots, jumps. So if you come off, there ain't no protection. You got knee pads on. Some riders didn't even wear knee pads back then. So No, I'm just teasing. But, I mean, it's horrendous. You literally look like you're wrapped in a condom and now you're trying to race down a hill. Like, we're not skiing. Skiing, yes, they're going faster. But what happens when you fall off on your skis? You slide. You slide on the snow and the ice. What happens when you fall off a mountain bike?
Yeah.
You don't really slide.
Barrel roll
and if you slide,
get cut.
and when you slide, it fucking hurts.
Yeah.
So, but, you know, because there are no skin suits, the Moto gear came in, and a lot of riders are getting side deals. They're earning a lot of money. Gwyn, Menard, Loic. And when I was on Giant was sponsored by Fox, but because they wanted to build the brand, they paid Danny and I a separate wage.
Right.
So that was awesome.
Yeah.
You got to work with them. You got to do photo shoots. You helped design products. And like we spoke, that side of the sport is catching up, if not close to Moto. I don't have the right facts. But I mean, it's a lot bigger than the wage gap is. So that's really awesome. So riders are getting compensated by their kit sponsors, some of them, you know, and some of those kit sponsors are sponsoring teams. So the team has more budget.
Yeah.
If you're in a skin suit, yes, you can see some of the arguments are you can see the logos better on TV, right? But
it's about selling products, isn't it? They're not going to sell skin suits to people to ride cross country.
But like, yeah, exactly. So I mean, I don't want to see them come back, you know, biasly, and I don't think the riders do for various reasons.
Yeah.
And one of them is monetary. One of them is the brand awareness of the sport. Look, I've seen some cool photos when you're in a skin suit and you're on a bike going fast. Like, you can make it look pretty cool. But overall, what do you want to promote to the masses? The masses doesn't ride down the hill in a skin suit.
No, they definitely don't. And obviously the gear companies aren't going to be too stoked on it either because they're not going to sell that stuff. It looks shit too, let's be honest with you. It's not a cool look for the sport, is it? But
no, man. And I'll tell you a funny story. They're just horrendous. So they're one-piece suits, right? So you got the zip up the front often, I think. And, you know, maybe I'll dig up an old picture of and get someone to send you a picture. Me dressed like a bloody condom. And so now I'm at the top of the race, nervous as per usual. And what do? You normally need a pee when you're nervous. So off I go to the woods. Now you got to zip the front down. You can't. I'm not gonna I'm close to my race start, right? So I'm not gonna take the shoulders off and pull it down. So I'm going down there and I'm getting as much as I can out to have a whiz. And obviously I'm in a rush and I'm nervous and it all goes back in. And I go back to my training bike and I look down and I'm in a green Lycra suit and I haven't wiped it all. So now I'm starting a World Champs run. And I'm like looking down. I'm like, I hope that dries by the time I get down to the bottom. But I can't even do anything. So that's another crap thing about these guys saying, oh, we should bring skin suits back. No.
You can't pee.
No, it's crap. I see where they're coming from. Like, I understand, like, why would you not want to go as fast as you can? Yeah. But if no one's wearing a skin suit, then we're all on more playing fields, and then some guys a little bit tighter top and tighter pants, whatever. At least they look better than the skin suit.
Do you think skin suits would come back if downhill was an Olympic sport?
Oh, that's a good question. You'd have to have a pretty strong riders' petition to stop that.
Yeah, let's please keep this thing cool. Please. Yeah, you're right. Because someone would slide one on there, right? Someone's going to give it a go.
It's not happening at World Champs, and World Champs is one of the biggest races in downhill, so they've stopped it happening there. Okay, so for a while it didn't happen at World Cups, and then at World, so it was kind of this novelty and kind of fun for the riders. But it's weird to ride on them if you have a track that's fast, like that Leogang motorway section. Oh. Dude, you'll take some seconds out of guys in a skin suit, but you also hit the jumps like faster. So if you haven't practiced in one, that's horrendous as well.
I can imagine. Why isn't downhill an Olympic sport? Have you got any insights on that? Has there been talks? Like, what's the deal?
No, I don't. I think it'd be challenging to find a venue at all the places, so it'd be pretty far away. No, but what I have heard is there's only a certain amount of medals per cycling. So for us to get in, I think something has to fall away.
Right. Okay. Because obviously
And I
BMX
heard
is now in there,
rumours-
so something
Yeah,
must have...
but exactly. But I heard rumors the wrong BMX was in first because they thought it was meant to be parked, but then racing came in, or the other way around.
Ah, okay.
So
Interesting.
I don't have direct info on that. I'll have to do some digging and ask
Yeah.
some guys why it's not in. But I
Would be
did
interesting to
hear
see it in
some
there
of
for
those
sure.
rumors of like some disciplines or medals would have to fall away. So you'd have to lose some of the track event or lose something so that you can then distribute medals, apparently.
I remember, I don't know if this is...
But I mean,
something
it
that-
would help like the younger generation watch, you
Yeah.
know, and that's why they're bringing BMX Park in, right? That's to
And
bring
skate,
the younger
and skateboard.
demographic. Skateboard, yeah. It's skateboard in. Has it
Yeah.
been in?
It's in now.
It's
Oh,
in
I
now.
hope
What,
it is.
like,
I'm sure I've seen it. I'm sure this is the first year.
well, but BMX Park, this is going to be the first year. Or am I
Yes, I
also-
think skate is the first year as well then. Skate park.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it is. I hope it is.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I'm right on that though. Yeah, it'd be it's interesting to see a few action sports and fringe sports coming into the Olympics for sure. Whether that is good or bad, I'm gonna sit on the fence because I'm not entirely sure. I'm sure if you speak to some really hardcore BMX guys, they're gonna say no. But I'm sure if you speak to some of the park guys, they're
Yeah.
probably gonna be like, yeah, it's pretty cool being an Olympic athlete. You know.
It would be awesome to call yourself an Olympic athlete. Definitely, it definitely takes the core out of it a bit. I know BMX, a lot of guys got burnt out on that, and it took the fun out of it. But I mean, and I don't know if it pushed the wages up enough to make it worthwhile. It made it more professional, but you can ask Jared Graves how hard that was, and I know Mike Day,
Right.
who got a bronze medal as far as I know.
Okay.
Come to think of it, let's actually reach out to him. He'd be a good guy to get
He
on
would
the
be a good
podcast.
guest. Yeah, he
Yeah,
would,
I've
probably.
played beer pong at his birthday before, and I mean, he's such... You know when you like meet people you look up to or you like want to hang out, and then sometimes they're not what you thought they would be? Mike Day was that and more. He's just so chilled, fun, great guy.
Yeah. Dude, well, you know, we're over 2 hours. We could probably sit and riff for a long time. But before we go, got to ask you, top pick, World Cup champion, male and female, at the end of 2021. Who are you picking?
Ooh, shucks. I've been picking race per race. I've
Have
done
you?
2 now. Yeah. So I butchered the first one. Well, no, Loris got a puncher again, so that was really unlucky. Obviously, he's hurting a little bit more than me, than my pick. And then I went with I was kind of presumptuous that the course was going to be really dry in the bottom woods, because often we went to Leogang and there was a new section, and then we went back a year later. It was bed in hard pack. This was not the case, so I went with Greg and Gwyn
Okay.
as my other 2. And I think Greg on a cleaner run would have done pretty well. He had like a little mechanical, and then Gwyn just didn't quite get to the woods. I don't think that's his true season. So I butchered the first one.
Okay.
But I think 2021 World Cup overall, 1 race in. So Troy's shown his cards.
Showed them pretty good too, man. He had a few aces in there. Huh? He came through
Yeah.
with the aces.
So women, can I bet on Valley Hall for the whole season? She is going to win this year. So Valley
think?
Hall's going to win this year. Yeah.
All right.
I mean,
Like it.
yes, she could have won that. She fell off. Camilla, what a great race.
Yeah.
I think.
And a
But you
great
put me on the
start to the
spot.
season too, man. Really good
Yeah.
start. Actually, an
Yeah,
exciting
it was
race to watch.
awesome. But Marine, so with that wood section, not everyone's shown their like true form and cards. So it's like a great race. Everyone deserved to win, but like the depth in that top 5 and top 10 wasn't true in my mind.
Okay.
We're going to get to a more consistent track, and we will.
Mm-hmm.
Oh goodness, but you need an answer, and can Mr. Consistency do it now that he's won one? I'm going to go with Troy. Troy, but I think Amory's going to be good. Greg's a fighter. Who knows?
Yeah.
I've got this weird feeling that he's still pissed off and got motivation, but I'm going to go with Troy. And and maybe Amarie's gonna fight a bit. Amarie's gonna fight a bit in Loic, but it's so hard to tell. It's ridiculous. And then in the women, sure. I don't know if the youngster can pull off a whole season. This one's going to be tough.
I think it's a good pick now.
But oh, shucks. Is it Miriam, Marine, Tane, or Valley? And you put me on the spot. They're so hard to tell. It's actually just stupid, isn't it?
Which is good. It means it's stacked field.
Yeah, it means it's good. And Camilla, and I'm not going to write her up. Okay, well, maybe I'll back Marine. She won last year. Some more tracks going on. Oh, the youngster, I don't know. I'll go with Marine, but Valley's going to give her a good fight. And I do think Tane and Miriam, it's too hard. It's a toss-up between those four. But who have I said? I can't even remember.
Tane, Miriam, Valley.
But for the title, okay, I'll just go and get crazy and actually just say, okay, Valley will take it.
Okay.
But that's just speculation. It's not.
Dude, it's fun though.
I don't have
Bench racing is
favourites.
hilarious.
Yeah,
it's hilarious.
exactly.
And I don't know enough about the sport. I mean, I know enough, but I'm not as in depth as you. But if I was to pick, I'd go Valley for sure, and then I'm going to go Loic.
Okay, Loic. Okay, cool. Yeah. So we must write these down. This will be cool to come back. And hey, if you like bench racing, there's a podcast you can follow. Just saying.
Yeah, dude, there is. And the link is in the show description.
I think there's a podcast.
And the host is an absolute G.
And he might annoy you. Send him a message. Give him some feedback. I don't mind it. Send me some hate mail. Let's have it. No, we're having fun with it. I want some ideas what you want to hear more about if you do listen to the post racing. And Dave, I'm going to force you to listen to one or two.
Dude, I will. Honestly, my phone's not here. I'd show you. It's at the top of my thing to listen to next. I've just been, it's been a busy week already. But I will. I will listen to it. I'm interested.
Bro, thanks so much. I appreciate you. I appreciate your in-depth thoughts, challenging me. And we're going to take that other thing offline. And good luck with the edit and the assets and all the work that's going to go into this. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Mate, it's been a pleasure. Absolutely love sitting and chatting to you. We're going to get you on mid-season anyway with the new series with Ollie and I, if that's okay.
Sick.
We'll catch up mid-season, have a bit of a review, what's going on and stuff like that. That'd be super fun. And dude, again, I just want to say thank you because you've become a good friend and I really, really appreciate everything that you've done for me and looking forward to some cool stuff that we can maybe now work on in the future, which is pretty cool. But great guest, as always, great insights, great conversation. And I hope everyone out there's enjoyed listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe, comment, send hate mail to both of us. And appreciate everyone for listening. It's been fun. Peace. There we go. We end.